Built by horse players for horse players, AmWager is designed for speed, power, and ease of use. AmWager brings CAW-style tools to everyday horse players, including Dutching, ABC Ticket Maker, and Pro Percent, an advanced betting tool that lets you assign weighted percentages and build multiple structured wagers with a single click. Every month, AmWager turns the odds in your favor with 0% takeout on select tracks. These promos offer you up to $100 more for your winning bets and giving you value for your wagers not offered anywhere else. Rated 4.7 stars on Google with over 200 reviews, AmWager is trusted by horse players who expect more from their wagering platform. If you're looking for better tools and better value, you need AmWager. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit amwager.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 or older where applicable. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE.
Welcome to the Sport of Kings podcast, episode 359, sponsored by AmWager. Go to amwager.com to see all their promotions, including their special promos for Derby Day. As always, I welcome your feedback on Twitter/X. My handle is @Derby1592. This week, I'm joined by a special guest, Andrew Beyer. He's a horse player, an author, and the creator of the Beyer speed figures used in the daily racing form. We're going to discuss this year's Derby and some other races on the undercard. Handy, how's it going?
Well, it's fine. I always get psyched up at this time of year. I mean, not that my historic record for handicapping the Derby should be encouraging me, but everybody loves this race, and you just want to, as a handicapper, you want to burrow into it and try to come up with something juicy.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like, that the Derby just gets bigger every year. It just seems to become more and more the focal point of racing. So it is amazing how popular it has become. It's always been a big race, but it just seems like it gets bigger every year. And like you said, it presents some opportunities you don't have every day. So do you approach it any differently from a handicapping, wagering standpoint than you would a normal day, or is it just like any other race for you?
Well, obviously, because of its importance and visibility, I mean, you want to bear down and try to be right. But by the same token, I've got like a 40-year history of trying to pick the Derby winner, so I know enough to temper my enthusiasm.
So do you because of the 20-horse field, the mile and a quarter distance, do you look at it differently from an analysis standpoint, or is it pretty much all the same handicapping fundamentals you use in the other race?
It's just that you if you're a sane person, you know that a lot of things of an adverse nature can happen in an 18 or 20 horse field. So there is that added element of uncertainty, with in addition to just all of the complexities that the Derby itself presents.
The Derby chaos,
right?
Yes, and I mean, you never know when you're going to have another rich strike, right? So
one can always hope for the occasional biggie.
So what about from a betting standpoint? Do you bet it any differently than you would a race, any other day, or do you make you?
Well, I view it as my, my mission in life that I've got to bet the Derby whether I have a good opinion or not. I mean, it's not enough to just have the winner on paper. You want to cash a ticket, and so I'll always do my best, but while recognizing that there are a lot of pitfalls.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of those specifically about the race coming up. So let's go ahead and not waste any time. Let's get started. Let's talk about the Derby, and I'm really interested to hear, what is your strongest opinions? Who are you looking at as key horses, maybe value plays, live long shots? What
Well,
are you thinking
it
about this
shouldn't
race?
it shouldn't surprise you that as a fig guy, I always look at the speed figures first. And in you know uh, in a situation like this year's Derby, when you've got a standout speed figure, I don't want to get uh, too creative and have people say, "What you didn't bet further ado?" He laid over the field on the figs. I have to zero in a situation like that, and further ado, got a figure of 106 in the bluegrass. I mean, that 106 is good enough to win the majority of modern day Kentucky Derbies. And, you've got the best figure with maybe the best trainer and one of the two or three best stallions. I mean, let's say I recognize that in a 20 horse field, there are a lot of pitfalls, but I can't go beyond further ado.
Yeah, and and the other thing is, he has the sort of, early speed to put himself in a good spot, and he drew an outside post, which you'd think, the good rider like Johnny Velasquez, he can probably work a good trip. So, like you talked about the Derby Chaos, it helps to be near the front, maybe a little bit on the outside if you have good early speed. So from a trip standpoint, it seems like he's as likely to get his trip as any other horse. Would you agree with that?
I don't try to predict the trips in a 20 horse field. I mean, so much can go wrong. I don't love post position 18. If he were in, uh, I would settle for post one. You just have to get you have to hope that, the racing gods are on your side. But, he's the right horse, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I heard you. I can remember. I mean, I've always followed your analysis on the Derby over the years, and I remember the year War Emblem won. You after the race saying, "I can't believe I didn't play War Emblem. He was the fastest horse, and he was a big price." Is that kind of what you're thinking here? You don't want to be caught, not playing further ado.
Well, I'm not going to get a blockbuster price on further ado, but what when a horse has a number that lays over the field, I mean, if I'm going to bet against him, I've got to have a negative on that horse or a good reason to go against him, and I don't see it. I mean, it was when he won the bluegrass earlier this month, he opened like a gigantic lead turning for home, and the tracker announcer, gave a terrific call, and he said, "Well, we've seen this before," and in fact, further ado's the other giant race in his career was also with Keeneland when he broke his maiden by 20 lengths. I think some people might look at that and say, "Gee, could be a Keeneland horse for course or whatever." I generally don't believe in that stuff, but this horse is pretty good.
Yeah, and I've heard that Kalen narrative. It's kind of interesting because you would think a horse who had, he was by far the fastest horse as a 2-year-old among this
Yeah,
bunch as well, and he came back and he ran a little faster as a 3-year-old, again much faster than the rest of the field. He won by 11 lengths at Keeneland in the Bluegrass. You would think he's like going to be the odds-on favorite, or not odds-on the Derby, but he'd be the heavy top choice, and he's not even the morning line favorite. And he may go off at 4-1 or higher. So is that, what sort of price would you need to actually bet on him?
Well, because it's a 20 horse field, I mean, I would like to get 4 or 5 to 1, and I'm not going to be, betting my bottom dollar, in a situation like that. But I would just like to see the figure vindicated.
So from a betting standpoint, you've got a horse that you think clearly kind of stands out. He's above the rest, further ado. And I don't know if you care or not, but I share your opinion about the horse. I'm a little surprised that he's not getting more support than he is. But I agree with everything you said for all the same reasons. Although I do look at the trips and I think, I agree it's always chaos. You never know what's going to happen. But I always like a horse that has the speed on, that can and a rider that can kind of work his own trip rather than having to rely on luck. And so I think from that standpoint, I even give him a little more credit. But so we're on the same page there. So what do you do with that? Maybe say he goes off at 4-1. It's not going to, make you rich betting on to win. And like you said, with all the Derby chaos, maybe he's not even a good win bet. But how do you leverage that? What kind of way do you like to play it? Do you like to play vertical
Well,
bets?
in this case, I mean, obviously the rest of the field was pretty tough to untangle as well. I'm going to play one cold exact, uh, and that is Further Ado on top of the Puma. I mean, the two horses, ran against each other at Tampa and were like a half a length apart. I mean, the Puma came back and ran very well in the Florida Derby. I like the there are a lot of high profile trainers in this race, and Gustavo Delgado is not one of them. But let's not forget, I mean, he won the 2023 Kentucky Derby with Mage, who was coming out of a second place finish in the Florida Derby. So you got to give him some respect, and he's not in this race just on a lark.
Yeah. And so you like him better than the other two horses coming out of Florida Derby, Chief Wallaby or Commandment?
Um, Marginally, I just feel he's gonna get lost in the shuffle. And is going to be some value, but if I start going too deep in here, I could have 20 combinations. So I just want to give myself a chance to hit a home run, and I'll do it with a one punch exacta.
I don't want to rain on your parade, but it looks like he might be this year's Wise Guy horse. He's like 6-1 in the early betting. Maybe it's a name, I'm not sure what, but you might not get quite the price you were expecting based on the early wagering. You always know that win pool in the Derby, crazy things happen. And it looks like the Puma and So Happy might be the two horses that are going to get bet off the name or whatever.
Oh, really? You think that people will gravitate to the Puma because of his name?
I don't know what it is, but for some reason he's taken a lot of early money. I don't.
Okay.
Sometimes I've scratched in my head as to why they take money, but
Okay.
so, and maybe maybe it's just it's still only Wednesday and there's probably not even $1 million in the pool yet, but it does look like he's taken more money than you would have expected early. I mean, Chief Wallaby's like twice the price of
Okay.
the Puma right now, and then the Commandment's higher price than the Puma right now. So just make you aware of that. And that might not be how they play it in the exacta pool either. I mean, that win pool in the Derby is so weird. It's one of the more unfathomable things and hard to predict things. There's always one or two horses you just can't figure out the betting at all. So anything else in the Derby? I mean, you Further Ado's the horse to beat.
Yeah.
You're thinking the Puma might be your exacta play. Is there anybody else? Any other like really
I
big
think,
prices?
beyond the Derby itself, and again, trying to zero in on a 20 horse field, I'm not gonna give myself too much credit, for thinking I can do that. But I will if since I do like, um, uh, the top figure, I'll probably play some pick fours, just to give myself a chance to get alive, to the logical horse and maybe make a score. And I've got one bomber in the pick four sequence that I will use. I'm not going to go to the bank on this, but I'm definitely going to use in the ninth race the American Turf at number 5 Blackout Time, who is coming off he's making his first start on turf. He's coming off a couple pretty uninspiring efforts at Oaklawn Park on the dirt. But he's, last year, he ran an excellent uh, speed figure on dirt that shows he's got some ability, and he's got a good solid pedigree for turf. His sire, Not This Time, has a 16% winning percentage with turf starters, and his dam, um, uh, beauty parlor, uh, was strictly a turf runner, and she won the Orchid Handicap at Gulfstream. So this is Blackout Time's debut on grass, and I think it's a reasonable spot to take a shot at the notion that he's going to move up. He's got the dirt ability, he's got the turf pedigree. He's 10-1 in the morning line and should be at least that on the board. So that's uh, that's my anchor to try to get a juicy pick four going.
Yeah, I like that horse. I agree. And they did work him once on the CD turf course too. So and like you said, he seems like he's bred to go on the turf, and he'll be a price. So I like that one a lot. The 4 horse in that race, Stark Contrast, certainly a good horse too. But he's about the only horse that would, maybe Black at Time takes the turf and runs well, that could still beat him. But those two, I think you could get by with in that race in the pick four. So what about the other races in the pick four? Any other strong opinions in
Well,
the two races in
if
between?
I get those two, I'll be happy. There is, in this sequence, a pretty solid single uh, in the Churchill Downs stakes, the 10th race. Knightsbridge has just got a succession of triple-digit figures, and if he doesn't win, I don't know what's going to happen. But in a series of competitive races, like again on the Derby card, having won, it's no shame to say I'm going to key in on this one solid favorite and then try to be right on the other races. So that's my approach.
Yeah, and that's a pretty strong race. So he's not going to be like 3 to 5 in there either, I don't think.
Well, he's, people are gonna look at that figure of 112 and an 11 length win last time. That I don't think that's going to escape the notice of too many handicappers.
Yeah, but there are some other horses that'll attract money. Cornucopian, the Baffert horse, has always been bet in his races pretty heavily. I don't think he's been below even money on every one of his starts. He's coming off a big win. He'll probably take some money, I would think. And there's a few others in there that I think that might be alternatives to in the wagering. So I know, I'm just thinking, it's not like everyone is going to be singling night. And what I mean is I don't think everyone's going to be singling Knightsbridge.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're going to be, it's not like, you're playing that horse, it's going to be everyone single in the pick four. I don't think Knightsbridge is that kind of horse. He's probably one that most people will be on, but they're likely to include a few others, and there might be other horses they're going to use to try to beat him. So, I think you could still get a lot of value in that sequence, even with him in there.
In the case of cornucopian, I should say, I've just, become very wary of California stars. The race. I mean, it's sad but true, but the racing there has really faltered, and it was not that long ago when you would look at horses who had solid Santa Anita or Del Mar form, and you had to use them just out of respect for the strength of the California circuit, and that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah, I mean, even the Baffert horses, you can't really trust necessarily because you don't really know what they've been beating, including, even Cornucopian. Yeah, that's a good point. And the times he shifted recently, he kind of underperformed. So that's a good point. All right, so there's one other race in sequence. I'm not sure. Did you have any strong opinion in the 11th race, the turf race leading into the Derby?
No, I don't. I mean, as I say, the fact that I've got a little bit of an idea in the other three, I'm quite proud of that.
So in that case, you just be pretty liberal and spreading and just trying to get through that 11th race and hope you're right about the other three legs.
When you're looking at these, pick fours or other sequential bets, I mean, there's always going to be a race or two that you don't really have a great opinion, and you're just going to have to spread around and hope for the best. And I think for me, that's the case with the 11th here.
All right. Well, I'll give you and the listeners a few ideas in that race. The 6-horse Rhetorical, I think, is clearly the most likely winner. So I would definitely use him in any picks you do. His trainer, Will Walden's just phenomenal. And this horse is going, he's the fastest horse. I think he had some excuses in his last race. And I think he's the one to beat. So that's the strong. And the other one I would mention is the foreign horse Shipping In. He was running against some pretty good horses in Dubai, like a horse named Holloway Boy, who he beat over there. So I certainly think he fits. Those are the two I would recommend using if you're playing the picks. The 6 Rhetorical and the 10 Make Me King. So that's my 2 cents worth in that sequence.
Okay, well, good luck. I mean, it's not an easy spot.
Yeah, it's tough. Okay, so so kind of summarize. Further Ado is a horse to beat. He's if he runs his race, you expect him to win, and you don't see any reason why he won't. So he's your play there. You're gonna lean on him as a single in the pick 4. You're gonna try to kick it off with a price horse, Blackout Time, trying the turf for the first time, but with reasons to think he might take to the turf. Then you are
and
going.
I would just add, with the situation like Blackout Time, you don't want to get locked into like a pick 4 with a horse who's going to be like a big price. So I mean, I will certainly have some kind of a win bet on Blackout Time just to so I'm not committing suicide after the race.
No, that's a really good point, though. If you if you have a horse like Blackout Time, bet him to win. Have some money on him. Don't just rely. Because if you get through that first leg with him and you haven't made any money, and then you fail somewhere farther along the line, that's just not the way to play. So, absolutely good point to make. So, what if he were to lose? Would you come back and play the pick three, or are you done? I'm just curious.
Lose where?
If blackout time didn't win that
No,
first
no.
leg.
I mean, I don't. I'm not holding my breath on him. I think he's, the most interesting value in the sequence. But I would, I'll be playing the other races individually. When circumstances demand. I mean, like I will play a further ado. The Puma Exacta in the big race.
Were there any other races on that Derby undercard that you had any strong opinion on?
I could only summon up enough mental energy to deal with the late pick four.
Yeah, so there are some other interesting races on the undercard. So I just encourage everybody. It's a really great card, as you normally get on Derby Day. And what's unusual this year, the weather forecast is about as favorable as I can remember. On a Wednesday before the Derby, it doesn't look like there's really much chance at all of precipitation, where
Oh, good.
normally, that's not the case. So that might be something to look forward to as well.
All right. Well, let's hope it stays.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, we got through the Derby. Did have a couple of one other topic I want to talk about, if you don't mind, and that is my new book, Betting on Horses. You're the featured player on not surprisingly, on the section around speed. But you wanted to talk about another topic in the book, which is the computer models and the CAW team. So, I'm very interested in hearing what you have to say on that topic.
I just wanted to say that I thought it was good that your book addressed the just the factor of the computer groups and their impact on the tote board and everything else. I mean, I I don't have some rare insight into them, but it's obviously a part of the game that almost every serious player is aware of and they talk about. And uh, I I've seen in kind of other parts of my my handicapping and betting life, the situations where where uh the the wise guy computer groups are a real factor that you have to take into account. So I mean it's I would say that that's let's say it was a smart thing for you to include a discussion of that in your book,
Well,
and I hope it does well.
well, thanks. Yeah, I think it's really an important part. When did you first really notice, start seeing an impact of these computer teams, in the pools? I mean, when did it really start becoming real for you?
In 1991,
Wow.
uh, I made a couple international trips um, to uh, uh, to places that
Like Hong Kong? Did you go to Hong Kong?
Hong Kong and uh, I mean there's just just huge money in Hong Kong and huge betting syndicates, and so they were just I mean the, they were such a factor in the uh, in the sport over there, and the same was true in Australia. That that the that the the wise, the wise guys um, in these groups were you were always aware of, and so it's there's no easy answer to how to deal with them, but anybody who's a horse player in locations like that, just recognizes how potent they are and really how smart these guys are. I mean, there's uh, I think they're among American horse players when you see like that late money coming in on on a smart horse, you think, oh, they've got some sort of an illicit edge. The fact is that these these some of these syndicates are just they are just extremely smart, extremely sophisticated. They know more than you and I do, and that's why they're having such a noticeable impact on the tote board.
So you knew even back in 1991, it was just a matter of time before we start seeing that same kind of impact in the U.S. And we certainly are seeing that now.
Yeah. The no, the you know the the groups are they're not only smart, but they command such force in the pari-mutual pools. You can't ignore them, and certainly in my exposure to to racing overseas, it was really kind of stunning to see how sharp the competition was.
Yeah, and I think people just have to recognize that they are probably do have more information, and they're better at using the information, and they certainly have some advantages like in pricing and last look at the odds and ability to execute bets at a extremely high rate, that none of us have, and makes him a formidable foe. Which, and in the book, I talk about this. Well, how do you try to battle against that? How do you compete? And you can't compete with them if by playing every race at every track and every pool. I mean, that's their game. That's not your game. You have no chance. But if you specialize and you become more selective and really focus on your strength, the places where you think you might be able to have an edge on those teams. And there are certain kinds of races where certain people may be able to do that. That's what you need to do. You have to just you have to sort of change the way you approach. You can't just say, I'm going to go play this track. I'm going to bet every race, on the card. And if you're taking that approach, you're probably not in a very good position to compete.
I think what all the syndicates that I've observed tend to do is they analyze a race uh, and handicap it and make a judgment on the correct odds for various horses will be, and then they bet when the race comes around. They're always looking for overlays and where is the value, and I guess that's something that all of us run-of-the-mill players should be doing, that to at least have in your mind an idea of, what's a fair price for this horse, and then maybe adjust your activity according to whether you're getting an overlay or not. But as I say, the that's the thing that the computer groups, I think, pretty much all have in common.
Yeah, and that's that, trying to find value and assess that. That's another key theme in the book. And the thing that's different about the teams is just their objective is different than most players. You want to make a score. They're not trying to make a score. They're trying to grind out a profit And so, they're willing to play a whole bunch of horses in a race that they think might all be, slight overlays. And, they don't really care about, being right. They just want to make sure that, that they correct all the odds. And so that they siphon out any value they see. And it might be a group of horses. It might just be one horse that the crowd's, completely off on, but they don't really care. They're just trying to grind it out and get as much volume as they can and bet into every pool and every race that they can. And, with the price that they get on their wagers, they don't have to be, and they tune all their models based on that. I mean, people say, well, if they didn't get those big rebates, they're like, let's say they're like not even breaking even. They're losing 1%, but with rebates, they're making a bunch of money. And they're saying, well, they wouldn't even make money if it wasn't for the rebates. But that's not true. They would just tune their models a little differently depending on the price that they're getting. But they just try to maximize volume.
Most of these groups are pretty smart. So
yeah. But so you got to realize that's your opponent, and you're not going to beat them at their game. So you have to figure out your niche in that betting landscape where you have a chance,
right.
And that's where you want to focus. And that's kind of what I talk about in the book, kind of how to figure that out. And so at least you have a fighting chance, right? Because if you don't, you don't have a fighting chance. If you kind of do things.
Let's hope we have a fighting chance on Saturday, Chris.
Yeah, well, that's the one race of the year, the Derby. They can't correct all the odds. They can't. Right. They can't take on that kind of risk. So you might actually get the price you're hoping for, on a horse, and you might get a horse like Further Ado, who's the standout numbers horse. That might not even be the favorite. You might actually have an overlay on a horse like that, where on a normal day, that would never happen. If it was smaller pools, they would knock his odds down to whatever they think they should be. You're never going to get that overlay, but on Derby Day you might. So, and some of the other pools as well. All right. So, any advice you have to people playing on the Derby or the Derby card that we haven't already talked about? Any recommendation?
I think we covered it. You just can't get too wrapped up in the idea that this is the Kentucky Derby. I got to have the winner of this race. There are plenty of other races, but I'll be doing my best.
Yeah, well, we all want to be. I mean, you kind of especially, but most of us who people know are horse players. The casual friends and family we have that only play one race a year, the Derby, they expect you to have the winner for them. They're not happy when you don't give it to them.
Well, tell them further ado.
Yeah, without any further ado, we've got the winner for you this year. I like that. All right, well, I do want to give my book a plug before we go. If you go to betwiththebestmedia, all one word.com, you can get my book. I cover a lot of stuff, including the computer teams and how to find value. So I think if you're a horse player, you'll get something out of it. So I appreciate any support I get there. But that ought to wrap things up. I think we've covered it. Andy hopefully gave you the winner, because that's who I'm going to be keen on as well. Further ado. But that'll wrap things up. Thanks again, Andy, for joining me today, and to all the listeners.
Pleasure, Chris.
I appreciate it.
Have a good Saturday.
Let's have a good Saturday, and that'll conclude show number 359 of the Sport of Kings podcast. Good luck this weekend, and please enjoy the Brooklyn Boogaloo Blowout. Cheers. All right, it's a wrap.